You are now listening to an exclusive interview on Sounds of Success with Noah Swiderski. You are now listening to an exclusive interview with the baddest man on the airwaves, Mr. Saturday Night.
All right, hello.
Oh, thank you so very much, little Anthony. It's such a joy to have you here, and as the celebrity guest star on the program. I have to start with this. Do you still hit the legendary high notes in the shower?
Okay, let me explain to the audience once and for all. I'll ask you this question: can you still run the 440?
No,
you can't. No,
that's easy because I never was able to.
Now, what happens is I'm a natural tenor. Number one, when I started out, I don't know, I was 60-something years ago. Obviously, I was a young man, so your vocal cords are really not used as much. So you're developing your skill, and the vocal cords actually are muscles. They are muscles, two little, like you look like upside time V.
Yes.
And they vibrate the wind that comes out of your diaphragm. That's for singers. Everybody else, I don't. For us to become singers, we have to do that, or should do that, and learn how to do that. And I think that as time goes on and the years go by, it is naturally to change. If you ever listen to Sinatra?
Yes.
Well, you remember when he was in 39, 40, when he was with the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra?
I do.
You remember how light and beautiful tight voice? But if you look at each stage of his many decades he was in the business, he starts to get more resonance, more deeper tone, but it's still the same key. I mean, it's just not a matter of fact, a singer just clicking on something. I want to go back to when I was 17 or more. Then you can do that if you're a runner and you broke the land of 440 at a certain time. Sure. Now you're older, senior citizen. You don't run as fast.
Yes.
And not because you don't want to, you don't. Now, the key to singing is, how do I develop that so that I maintain the quality and the distinction and actually the key without trying to sound like you're 18? But you don't. What you do is you allow your voice, and I've had good training and voice training and all that kind of stuff, to develop its own, be able to fit in its own little thing. And it will get. What will happen is that, like I tell a lot of people, I can I sing in the high C? Yes, but I only visit it. I don't live there anymore. When I have to go there, I will go there. But
well said.
All singers know that. Mathers, all of us know that. So, excuse me, I'm just coming off a bit of a cold. I'm on the best side of it now, but I have a little dry cough. Forgive me. So that's what happens. So you get now. I was told by my conductor, that you sing about maybe out of the 6 records or 7, 8 records you've done, you only change the key in 1. And I said, really? And the only reason that happened was I was doing Hurt So Bad, which is a very powerful, you really have to get up in there and stay there. And Gladys Knight once told me, she came to see the show, so when she came backstage, she said, boy, you was nailing that thing as if you were actually there. Now, she's a professional singer. She knew what I was doing. She said, I'll tell you what, you better lower that key, fool.
Oh, that's the best.
He said, go down a half a step. To the human ear, a half a step, it can't be detected by the human ear, but we as singers, other professionals can tell.
Yeah, amazing.
So, like I said, Sinatra had all these different sounds until finally he came to the 60s and he developed this really deep, but able to go up there when he wanted to. Mm-hmm. So actually, you become a better singer. You learn how to use your instrument. You know.
Well said. Hey, you said as much yourself a few minutes ago. More than 60 years in the recording and performing business. Unbelievable. 1955, Anthony, to 1965 was was a crazy time. Take me back there for a moment, would you?
Well, no, it's been written everywhere. It's not a news story, but uh, I was just a kid, a singer, and I was singing at a very young age. My mother told me that I began singing at 3 years old,
Mm.
and she said, "Well, but actually, my mother was a gospel singer, professional gospel singer. She sang with her sisters called the Nazareth Baptist Gospel Singers. My dad was a musician. He played alto and tenor. He played with Buddy Johnson's orchestra, Eddie Johnson, a lot of wonderful orchestras. Great horn player, tenor, alto and tenor. All of my brothers were very talented. One played drums, the other one played horn. Donald, my next to me, uh, he he um he had more talent than all of us put together. I mean, in overall, I mean, he can score. He taught himself how to read music. He could do all that stuff and sing and dance and just you name it. I'm the one that broke through. That's
Mm.
all. That's all that is, you know. And so I was always singing, and my mom encouraged me. In fact, before I was a little Anthony thought of, I was in the first things I did on stage was acting.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
A lot of community plays and stuff like that. My mother encouraged it because she was a singer and a performer, so she knew there was something about my son was a little bit different than maybe the others. And I
Sure.
think my mom told me, she said, even though my brother Donald had a lot of different uh, talents, I had honed in my singing part and focused on that so straight, and that I developed a sort of a sound that was very distinctive. She said, like you knew when you started singing, oh, that's my son. That's Anthony.
Yeah.
Actually, my real name is Jerome. Jerome. No, Anthony. My real name is my middle name, but my mother called me Anthony, and so it kind of stuck. But my first name is Jerome, and so I did what a lot of kids do, urban kids, brought up in the projects of Brooklyn. You either gonna become a thug or priest, or you're gonna come a singer or actor or something. It just wasn't no in between in those days. I was blessed and fortunate to have that gift. It was given to me, a godly gift, be able to sing. So I started singing so early. I sang with my cousins. We had a little gospel group, and then when I was about 15 years old, yeah, 56, I sang with a group that was formed by a young man by the name of William Doherty and Boys High School in Brooklyn. And he formed this group, and he asked me, "We need a lead voice. We need a front man." And I said, "Okay, they'll do." So I joined his group. It was called the DuPonts, and we
Yes.
had some regional success. You know, we ended up recording for Paul Winley label on his I think his brother or his cousin is a well-known singer with the Willows or whatever it is. Can't remember. Um, and that was my first professional record, actually being in studio. And the name of the song was "You." Yeah, you. Why are you? And and then I did another tune later on called "Prove It Tonight." And there was a man, the guy that took a liking to us or me. His name was Teddy Reed, and he was the manager of Tito Puente at that
No
time.
kidding. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
he was
amazing.
part of that whole salsa or mambo, we called it then. And he said, "Listen, you know, I work with Alan Freed and some other people he named. I work with Alan Freed, and he said, we need an opening act. And that last record you had was sort of a regional, regional, it made some regional noise.
Sure.
Connecticut, Jersey, Queens, that kind of thing. And so we ended up opening at the New York Paramount, the Alan Freed Spectacular Show. And I can remember on that show was some of the greatest acts you ever want to see from let me see, it was Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers,
Oh,
the Cadillacs, Nappy Brown, oh shoot, there's so many people. Joanne Campbell, I think, was on. I'm visualizing in my mind
sure.
all the people that was. And the Platters, original.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
They had about 12 acts on there, and so this was a big time for us. We didn't have that kind of experience, but they just needed an opening act. We only did one song, so they figured, well, probably I don't think we made $150 a guy after a week or so there, but we didn't care because this was show business. This was the real deal, and we opened for that show, and that was the beginning of my actual career.
And you know what? At what'd you say, 15, maybe 16 years old?
Years old.
You'd have done that for free, I'm guessing, to be on that,
Yeah.
be on the with that.
Because I remember when the record company, we had to go to a place to have our clothes fitted and all that kind of stuff. And our clothes weren't off the rack at all. I think we had one change, but actually that's all we needed.
Right.
One song. I mean, you don't work in the sweat. But from there began my first befriending, and he befriended me. Frankie Lyman became one of my best friends for many years up until he passed on. And then all the other people, Kirby Cox of the Speedo and of the Cadillacs, and Tony Williams of the Platters, and Zola Taylor, and all these people that I was there. I was, in fact, one of the one that I really befriended me at first was Jimmy Merchant of the Teenagers, Frankie Lyman Teenagers. I just talked to him a couple of weeks ago. We were and he said, he was telling me, when we first met, I said, wow, no, man, wait a minute. It's like 69 years.
Oh.
And I looked at and I said, it's been 69 years. And I said to myself, well, I never thought that way when I started. I didn't think this would become a career where I put my kids through college and everything. There was no thought of that.
Yeah.
But that kind of grew. And then I was with the Doo-Wops for a while, but there was another group in my neighborhood in Fort Greene Projects that was always trying to get me to come with them and leave the Doo-Wops. They were called the Chesters. Oh. Which originally became the Imperials, a couple of 3 years later.
So you have that kind of success at 14, 15, 16. So really maybe a two-part question. Number one, Brooklyn at the time, maybe somewhat racially charged, maybe a little rough. I'm guessing your gift sort of helped you navigate your way around. Is that fair?
To be precise, we didn't really have that kind of stuff when we were in Brooklyn, because even the neighborhood I lived in were mostly Italians and Jews and a few blacks and a few Puerto Ricans, simply because my father worked at the Brooklyn Navy Yard during World War II. Mm. Okay. And so everybody that was in that housing development, because the housing development was developed just to house the workers in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. So you had Italians, everybody. I can even remember their names. My neighbor up above me, I lived on the 4th floor. He lived on the 5th floor. His name is Bobby Fasano. My neighbor under me on the 3rd floor in the same apartment, like right the same thing. That was Tommy. What was Tommy? Weinstein? Tommy Weinstein. Um, there was so there was never really no tension of any kind.
No
Oh,
kidding.
really?
Okay.
I mean, I guess suddenly, I'm sure there was. It was real subtle.
Sure.
I remember that we only talked about going to Junior's, the famous Junior restaurant on Flatbush and Fulton Street in Brooklyn. But one day my mother just took me there, and there was no problem. But prior to that, you would hear, "Oh man, there don't any black folks in there, man," or something like that. But somehow my mother took me, so I didn't feel anything. All the theaters were integrated, everything. Where I got my first taste of Jim Crow or segregation was when we went south.
Oh, fair enough.
When I got to Delaware and Maryland, I started to feel, there's something that's not the same. They didn't have signs black or white or colored or none of that in Maryland and Delaware, but it was, I mean, they would take, I'm sorry, we don't serve any Negroes.
Sure, right.
As Moms Mabley, the great Moms Mabley, the comedian, one of the greats of all time, said, somebody came, she went into a restaurant in New York one time, and they said, "Well, we're sorry, we don't serve any Negroes here." She said, "That's all right. I don't eat any."
That's perfect.
So we really didn't, I never sensed that.
Okay.
As time went on, the neighborhood changed. After World War II, I was like 4 or 5 years old, 6, 7. The neighborhood began to slowly change because there was no more workers to be needed. And then the city bought those housing developments that was developed for the Navy to get people to work on the ships and stuff. They turned them into city. Actually, the city bought them or something, or they were given to the city, and they were called now projects.
Yes.
In those days, there was no such thing as a project. They were housing developments. And then it became slowly blacker and more, it just, as people bettered their lives and went on and on and on, and people started moving out to the suburbs. That was just a dream for black folk. That was just something you looked on TV and said, "Leave it to Beaver." You ain't, this is something you watch, you enjoyed it, but you dreamed that maybe someday that can happen.
Yeah.
Which happened for me, so yeah. But at that time, no, it wasn't that bad. That's not bad. No.
You had such success at such an early age. At what point do you think you felt, you know what, I think I made it? And how did you stay grounded? Because I'm guessing you were pretty young still.
To be honest with you, I still not sure if I made it.
Oh, come on.
You'd be surprised how insecure we can be. It's how good you are. It's like your last show is as good as you are.
Yeah.
So that every time I go out on the stage, I don't take it for granted. I never cheat an audience. I've always said that before, because I don't know when the next gig's coming.
Fair enough.
And it really proved that point when the pandemic came. We really, all of us didn't know where the next gig was coming from.
Yeah.
Right? So over 2 years, I did not step my foot on a stage, and I never had that happen in my entire career.
What did you do for those 2 years?
Stood around and got heavy and put on weight and ate.
Fair enough.
Off my royalties, some of them royalties that I got.
Yeah. Hey, I have a few of my own. I won't bore you with them. A few of my own Chubby Checker stories. But you guys have known each other since 17 or something?
It really first started. I met him. I'm like 2 years to 3 years older than Chubby. I think I am. I don't know if Chubby's, his age should be 81 because I'm 84. He's got to be there somewhere between 80 and 84. I talked to him on the phone not long ago, a couple of month ago.
Oh, you should call him. I think yesterday was it or day before.
Well, I sent him a message congratulating him.
Yeah,
because he really wanted that, and I felt that he deserved to be in there.
I agree.
Because of what he accomplished in this genre called rock and roll. You can't get no more than that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. Hey, take me. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was actually talking to him. I was trying to get him on my radio show because I have a radio show. I mean, I'm going to plug it. It's called Little Anthony and the Music on 50s Gold on Sirius Radio.
Excellent.
Weekend. So I do a lot of people. I just did Tony Alana the other day.
He retired, right?
Yeah, he did. If you want to call it that.
Right. Never really do, I guess.
And I never was. And Tony and I have known this since he was a kid.
Yeah.
Most of us all knew each other. I knew Simon and Garfunkel, Paul Simon. Oh my gosh, I met him in 1961 when the two of them were trying to get a record deal at 1650 Broadway in New York City. And they were known as Tom and Jerry. They weren't known as Simon and Garfunkel.
Wow.
I remember meeting Bobby Darin used to stand outside the Brill Building, one of 1619 Broadway, where most of the artists were. And I remember meeting him, and he was Bobby Darin yet.
Oh.
He didn't have Split Splash out yet. See, so he was hustling, and Connie Francis, I've known her. Well, I kind of met her later, but she came like 3 years before the rest of us did. But through being on TV shows, and she was there, we became friends. She's like my neighbor now, not far from me, you know.
I've been lucky enough to have several of your music colleagues on the program, and there's a common theme amongst, you know. So I'll say Andy Kim, maybe Tommy James, Ron Dante. They would all just
I've known Ron Dante gazillion years.
Oh, have you?
In fact, we're doing the tour coming up.
Oh yeah,
the Together tour. He's up every year. I do it every other year. So my time is coming up.
The Happy Together tour, yes. But they used to all fearlessly just go into the Brill Building and go around and knock on doors and sing to anyone that would listen to them. And many of them just got hired as writers at first, right?
Most of them, because when I met Neil Sedaka was like, I don't know if he was a stock boy or whatever he was doing, and he had this girl with him, and that was Carole King.
Oh,
and they were just out of high school. When I think about it, and just I shake my head and said, "That happened? Did that really happen?" Yeah. Of some of the people that I came out with. In fact, Billy Joel gave me a compliment once. He said, "Well, it wasn't for you guys, man, we would not have a career." He said.
Probably very true.
Yeah, he said that, and I really appreciated that. But like I said, you asked me that question earlier. Did I know or say I want to be a star? No. All I knew that I was getting a lot more girls. That I knew. I knew there was a good thing here that I'm doing.
That also seems to be a common theme of the musicians and singers and performers that I talk to. It's like, well, it didn't hurt. You know what I mean?
And I mean, I wasn't going to be a brain surgeon or anything, and I certainly wasn't, Billy D. Williams looking.
Yeah, you are.
So, and the odds are really tough, man, for me to end up. I mean, actually, I'd say this, but I don't say it with any pride. I hope it doesn't come out that way. But I only had, from the age of 14 to this day, I never had an 8-hour job.
Oh.
Now, I've had people come up to me and say, some lady once came up to me and said, "What does it feel like to work like that for all those years?" I said, "Lady, I don't work. You work. I sing."
Yeah.
That's not work. Now, if you want to say traveling, that's work. But when you go out on that stage, there's something you get. And if you're really honest and authentic with that audience, they're going to get it too. And it becomes a love affair between the singer and the audience. And it's just... Yeah,
just a connection. That's got to be a thrill.
It still is. I'm feeling, I mean... Every time I go on stage and I see, and I know I hit the note really well, or I'm rewarded with their love. the audience goes, "Oh yeah," you know. And so I give it more back to them, and this mutual giving, loving each other goes on, and the two becomes like a drug.
I don't know that you know him, but for my tastes, I would compare you when you hit that note or those notes. There's another person that comes to mind that still kind of has that too. Eddie Holman.
Yeah, Eddie. I've known Eddie since he first started. Yeah, he's a character. We were together for a month and a half in Europe and in England, so we got to know each other pretty well. Yeah, Eddie has a falsetto thing going, a lot like Smokey and others.
Yeah.
And people who sing falsetto tend to have a longer shelf life because they're not putting any basic strain. I'd have to get very technical, the difference between a natural voice and a falsetto. But the human vocal cords are really not working. It's the top register of your vocal cords is working. It doesn't have to go there and here and everywhere. It's like that. So it's not putting a lot of strain on your voice. And most tenors who have that tend to do that for years and years. I mean, into the 80s. I can tell you, Ron Townsend of Temptation, who was with them since over 40-something years, he took Eddie Kendrick's place.
Mm.
I mean, every time I work with them, I look in the wings and I go, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah, you just so a falsetto singer tends to have a little more advantage over guys like me who can sing falsetto, but have the kind of range that I can go up in my natural voice and no need to really. I did it a couple of times. I did it in Two People in the World, just the kinds of people in the world. And there's a few other songs, but like they do it that's it. When Eddie sings, it's it. When he sings "Lonely Boy," it's Eddie Holman.
Oh yeah, yeah. Hey, was there a song that became either a hit or got a lot more airplay because a DJ in Pittsburgh flipped the record over? Does that sound familiar?
No,
Tears on My Pillow. Is that part of that story?
No. Actually, I didn't set the record straight. Tears on My Pillow wasn't even supposed to be recorded. Because Clarence Collins of the Imperials, at that time they called it Jesters.
Mm-hmm.
He used to go to New York City and knock on doors. And he says, "I got a singing group. We'd like to try to get an audition," because in those days you would get auditions. We hadn't got to the demo parts yet, And he came back one day and told me, "Hey man, I was over to Gone and End Records." Now, we knew what that was. That's like saying Motown or Tamala. That was the label.
Oh yeah.
All the different groups. They had the Dubs, Isley Brothers, everybody. And he told me he knew this guy called Richard Barrett, who was the A&R man up there, but he actually was the original singer of the Ballantines. It's the lead singer of the Ballantines. And had some reasonable success. Woo Woo Train and a couple other kind of songs. They call Doo-Wop today. We called it street corner singing in those days, but they call it Doo-Wop later on. I don't know. Somebody started. Oh, that's another story. But it's Clarence persistence with Richard Barrett, who was an A&R man. He then got an audition, but on one condition: that if he gives Clarence this shot with the Chesters, we particularly do not think that the lead singer you have, which at that time was Ernest Wright of the Imperials, but the original Imperials, was really what they wanted. They didn't know what they wanted, but it wasn't that sound. He said, "You can find somebody that's unusual. They come back and see me." And Clarence says, "I know who that is. We were neighbors in Fort Greene."
Unbelievable.
And so he came to me, and I'm still in the DuPonts, and he says, "Man," because we sang in the street corners, two groups, battle of the groups, that kind of thing. And he said, we always wanted you. You were the missing link that we wanted. And I was kind of married to the DuPont, so
Yeah.
he convinced me to go. And I went on a lark. Oh, shoot, going on records? What the heck? I go, what are we singing? He said, I don't know. Ernest wrote these songs, and Ernest sang one song for me called Cha Cha Henry that he wrote. And then and we all did it was very quick to do with the background.
Sure.
And another song he had was very interesting. It was called Just Two Kinds of People in the World. And we went over there, and I didn't know what to do. I had no real rehearsal time with them on Just Two Kinds of People in the World. But I did know melodies. I can hear a melody immediately, it'll stick in my head. So it's a matter of words, and nobody was reading words at that time. They began to. So I tried to memorize it. I said, I don't know. And the group, if you remember, Just Two Kinds of People, Just Two Kinds of People in the World. That's the chorus. They are a boy and girl. There is no verse in this song. It's just the chorus and then the bridge. Nobody thought it was wrong, but it actually was. But there was something about the song that just people loved it when they would sing it somewhere. And I didn't know what to do because I never learned it. Ernest was the one doing all that stuff. And finally we got there and I didn't know where to go. And I remember this group called Earl Lewis. And what was the name of his group? Earl Lewis and the oh gosh, I forgot the name of the group. That's great.
It'll come back to you.
Channels.
Ah, okay.
And he had a song called The Closer You Are. The closer you are. Falsetto. And I used to love that. And I'm listening to people in the world and said, and just off the cuff of my head, we started auditioning. They were singing the choruses. And I just did, or whatever I did. And there it was. And I remember when we did it, and remember, we didn't have a band. We were all a cappella. And your rhythm was this. And the key, we never knew what key we were going to do it in. I mean, we just picked out the key. Clarence is very good at remembering where we were, key wise. So he just picked that key, and it was perfect. It was just very perfect. And when I did that, Richard Barrett was in his chair in his office, and he said, "Wait a minute, wait, hold up, wait a minute, wait." He gets on the phone, and he goes, George, that's George Golden, who's the president of N and Gone Records. You got to come over to the office. You got to come over to my office. You got to hear this kid. And then George, probably on the other side of the line, was saying, Richie, don't bother me. I'm busy. I got things to do. What are you talking about? They have 1,000 groups a day. And he said, no, you got to come over here. This is like Frankie Lyman type thing, which that's who started Frankie Lyman. And Richard Barrett and the Teenage. And he came into the office, and Richard said, "Okay, do that song again. Do what you were doing." So I did what I was doing. And I saw George just literally said, wait a minute, hold, kids. How old are you kids? You got our ages? 15, 16, I was 17 at the time. And he said, your parents, we need your parents to sign, but you like to record. Well, yeah. So I actually had to break the bad news to the DuPonts. I could not longer be with them, right? It broke their hearts.
I'll bet. Is there how was I going to ask this? Is there a song? I mean, you have a great body of work, singles, albums. Is there one song, and maybe this changes for you? Is there one song that you perform that you just still get the chills? Anyone, or does it
Oh, yeah,
change?
no, there's a few of them I get involved with. Actually, every song I'm involved with. But actually, that's a legitimate question to ask, because there is one particular song I thought was the best performance, pure performance on my half, and everything was right. Was called "Hurt So Bad."
Uh,
That was later on with Teddy Randazzo and Don Costa.
mhm.
It's another era. We went from the ice cream era, lollipop singing, doo-wop, street corner singing, and we went to Tears on My Pillow, which was a pop tune, totally different than anything that was out there. So I got off the track a little bit, but Tears on My Pillow, when George told us to go home and get ready to record, you have another song. And we said, Ernest sang his song, Cha Cha Henry. And so he said, okay, that will be the B-side. Okay. He says to us, two people, just to count people in the world, was the initial A side.
Yeah.
But Mr. Golden he just couldn't work. He couldn't work Cha Cha Henry. It just didn't do it. He said, no, I want something you lead. It's your voice I want. And he had already introduced us to a song quickly one day called Tears on My Pillow. We were supposed to learn the song as a backup song and record it, but we're kids. We're hard-headed kids out of Brooklyn. What do? We didn't even touch the song because nobody really thought it was, flee, you know? Now he's not going to do Cha Cha Henry. Now, we can't release anything without a B-side. And so he told me and the guys, I'm going to give the band a break for a couple hours, an hour or so, whatever it was. I want you guys to come up with something. What? So I told him, I can't remember those words. And he says, I'll write about. That was the first time. That became the way of show business after that. Everybody started, do this day. You don't rack your brain like try to remember all these things. And he wrote out the words. Now, if you listen to Tears on My Pillow, the third verse I repeated because I was so concentrated on what I was doing, I forgot the third verse was right in front of me. And so I instinctively repeated the second verse of Tears on My Pillow. And that's not on the record. The actual lyric is entirely different. But in those days, they were looking for performances. They weren't looking for perfection. What they do today is looking for perfection.
Yeah.
But they don't get the performances.
Yeah.
What they do,
Yeah.
Celine Dion or Adele, or they'll get that performance like Marvin Gaye, or but those kind of singers. But generally, they were looking for that thing, that performance. So they didn't care about all the leakage and all that stuff in the records.
I think at one point, did you not say you felt Marvin Gaye was maybe one of the best performers ever?
No, I would be wrong, because there were so many of them.
Yeah.
No one was like Jackie Wilson. Marvin Gaye wasn't that type of performer. Marvin Gaye was a great singer and stylist. There's nobody sound like him. The way he would take a song, it was so sensual. And he was such a good-looking guy. It added to that sort of persona, or that myth. And he knew how to work it too.
Yeah, that had to be a marvel to watch him.
Yeah. So that's really what it was. But when you're talking Sam Cooke, Jack Wilson, oh gosh, I go on and on. No, Marvin was unique. Yeah. What he did, but those other guys they could go anywhere. I mean, Jackie Wilson could have been an opera. If he wanted to be an opera singer, he could have, if he took it seriously. Because he was doing something with his voice that no one understood. You know,
Time is flying by. I'll skip a few things. First of all, I'll acknowledge you have won practically every award. I won't read them. We'd be here for another half hour. Um, but kudos to you. You've had and continue to have an amazing career. Any backstage stories? Thinking back that make you laugh or shake your head.
oh
Any
yeah,
like
there's so many of them, man. I, I could do this for the next 2 days. I mean, like, it's
Yeah.
just so much. When you pack in 69 years of show business, you just can't do it in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But there's one particular time that, of the many wonderful things and funny things that happened back there, because they were constant. We were doing a show with a singer called Screaming Jay Hawkins. Now, he did a song called "I Put a Spell on You."
Oh, I remember that.
Remember
Yeah.
that one? So,
Oh
and
yeah.
the background was boom, 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 boom. I love you. You know, it was spooky. It was really spooky because he just did it to do it, and actually influenced his act because he used to come. He actually sounded so spooky on the record. The record was so good that he started walking around with a skull on his
Oh.
staff. He started dressing in black, and I knew him when he wasn't like that, but he knew he found something. And so he got this coffin, a real coffin, that he would get into. It'd be unlocked, and the stagehands would roll it out. And while the introduction of the band was going boom, 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 ladies and gentlemen, Screaming Jay Hawkins, and all of a sudden you see this hand come up, and the coffin's open up, and he comes out with sorrow, and he comes real fast. He goes, "Mwah! I put a spell on you," and the whole 15 rows in the theater go. It was a huge hit. I mean, we loved it. Somebody, now I'm not saying, but this room is. And Ronnie hears me, he'll kill me. Ronnie Eisen was on the show. How do you? But they were practical jokesters, man. Something terrible. I don't know if it was Ronnie or who it was came with an idea. Hey, what would happen if we kind of lock his face?
Oh, nice. Genius. I
Isn't that
love
nice?
it. Yeah.
It was funny with Screaming Jay because he was going to kill somebody. So we did it at the Apollo Theater. And he gets in, and then here comes the music. Boom, 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 boom. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Screaming Hawkins. And all of a sudden you hear nothing moving, and you hear hey, open this thing.
Oh.
Stagehand said, we didn't do it. And they ran out real quick and opened it. Boy, he knew that one of us, he looked at the Imperials and did you guys? Said, no, we didn't do it. We ain't gonna rat.
Oh. Hey, you have so many, as you say, 69 years of stories, and we could go forever. I'm going to mention 4 names after talking to your son Tony. Give me either your best story or just the one that comes off top of your head for each. We'll start with Red Fox.
Red Fox was like my dad on the road. I met him when I was very, very young. I was about 17, and we were working in a high school. And I can remember his hair was almost red. It was more blondish than anything, but they call him Red, you know, before he got bald his head.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked at high school, and he was so funny. I don't know how, because his show was very blue. So I don't, maybe the high school it wasn't really high schoolers, but they probably used the gym as a theater gym. And
Sure.
they rented out the adults were in there. And we were one of the acts on the show. And he befriended me because he used to always say, "Hi, Tongue. Come here." He would call me Ty Tongue.
Yeah.
And he would say, "Hands on my phone." Funny, dude. Everybody be laughing. I'm going, really? So from that time on, it was almost like a bigger brother. He just had a love affair with me as a person. So he would take me everywhere. And as the years went by, we would end up working some of the greatest venues in the world together. And he was the one that introduced me to Elvis Presley. Because him and Elvis were tight.
Oh, look at that.
And in Las Vegas at the old Hilton Hotel, which was known as the International at that time. And we were working at theater with Bobby Vinton, Fox, and us. It's a beautiful theater was in there in those days. And Elvis was Elvis. He was in the main room, killed him. And so Red said, hey, y'all want to go with me and see the show? Go, because our show ended for us to catch the last show, his last show around 12:30 or something like that, 1 o'clock in the morning. And so we all win, and we was, whoa, Elvis. So I didn't say anything. I left the show, we went back, and then we get a knock on the door over the people in our dressing room, and they said, Mr. Presley is in the room. We said, Elvis? Yeah. Because Red invited him over. And so from him, we went over, we met all the guys in the Memphis Mafia, the Vito and all the cats that he was in the army with. And they had to cordon off this place in the theater because he was so big. The women, we couldn't have a conversation unless they had a thing cordoned off somewhere. And he said, and he called me this, Anthony. Hey, Anthony. I said, can I call you L? Oh, yeah. Most loveliest, wonderful human being. I miss that guy, man. He was so authentic. Call him what you want.
Yeah.
He really was naive.
No
He
kidding.
put on. He was a country boy. He was naive, but he loved soul people. He loved everybody. He one day we get a call, and he says, "Come over." They want us to come over with him at this atrium that was used to be in the middle of the hotel somewhere, but they had a cordon off, and he invited Dionne Warwick, us, Leslie Uggams, her husband, as I remembered, Red Fox, Teddy Randazzo was there, the writer of Going Out of My Head. He was in town. Hurt so bad. And we must have been there till like 4 to 5 in the morning, just laughing and all of us. I mean, you look at it, there's Dionne Warwick, all of us. Oh, Jack Carter, the comedian, he was there. It was amazing. And one night, Teddy Randazzo was sitting there because we made it every night. After shows we'd hang out because he didn't want to be around people. He had to have somebody he knew so he can be himself. So he used to invite us up to his suite that looked like a house. It had a swimming pool. It had a swimming pool in the suite.
Wow.
And then he would put on these karate things. He said, making jokes. What did Al say? He said, what the greatest karate move is? I said, what is it? He said, now stand right here. Now I'm going to take my hand and do this. And then you take this kitchen knife like you're going to stab me. I'm going, man, don't hurt me, please. You got a black belt. He did. And so he goes, as soon as he said, now come close to me with the knife. And here's the greatest karate move. He drops down on his knee and said, please don't hurt me.
I thought he was going to run away. But
he ran away after that. And everybody's cracking up and laughing. He was the life of the party.
What a memory. What about, how about Sammy Davis Jr.?
Sammy Davis, I met him through another friend of mine, comedian friend of mine. And his wife, I knew before I met him. Her real name was Joni Gore, but she went by her stage name of Altaviz. Well, we came up together in school. And her mother and my mother were best friends. So we've known each other since we were kids.
No kidding.
Yeah. And And so through that, I was invited by her to come see a play called Golden Boy on Broadway that he became really big at. Sammy Davis, what? And after the show, he invited everybody, his guests, to come backstage. And that's when I start, hello, Mr. Davis. He said, no, what do you mean Davis? Mr. Davis, Sammy. Everybody calls me Sammy. And he just kind of took me under his wing. I mean, every time he was in town, one of his best friends was one of the Treniers, Skip Trenier.
No kidding.
And the other friend was Johnny Brown. Johnny Brown was the one in the play. He was performing. He was known on the TV show. Well, moving on up. What was the name of that? That theme song.
Yeah.
He was Booker. Booker.
Ah.
The custodian or whatever he was. That was Johnny Brown.
No.
He then invited me to that, and then Skip Trenier said, "Oh man, let's go see Sammy, man. He wants you to come and see him because Sammy was like Elvis. When you become his friend, like Sinatra and all them, they kind of you in their circle. So go see Sammy Davis. My goodness, at the Caesar's Palace. So that's where I met him, and then befriended him, and over the years, just knew him, and he taught me so much.
Yeah. Now, was Frank Sinatra part of that circle? I would think.
He wasn't there when I was there. I had never met Mr. Sinatra, but that's another story. I can tell you how he got me out of a jam, because of. But see if I could tell a real class. It was we got together with Teddy Randazzo, and I knew Teddy all the way back from the New York Paramount. Remember I said all those people was on the New York Alan B show with Teddy was on it, and he was with a group called the Chuckles, the Three Chuckles. And he used to stand in the wings, and he said to me, "Kid, someday we're going to work together." And 7 years later, he met my manager, Ernie Martinelli, on the street, and he says, "Are you the manager of Little Anthony? We're looking for them. And could you have him come up and meet Don Costa?" And I said, "The Don Costa? Don Costa with Sinatra?" Yeah. He had a record company called DCB, Don Costa Productions. And we went up there and he asked everybody, "Are you all out of your contracts?" Because we have a song called Outside Looking In that Teddy believes where your voice is, it just fits that song. And I raised my hand and said, "No, not me. I still got a contract with Roulette Records." He says, "Roulette Records?
Oh.
Morris Levy? He don't give nobody any kind of release." And Don Costa sat back in his big chair in his office, and he said, "Wait a minute, I'll call you guys later. Let me." She's like, "What? I don't know." He was disgusted because he really wanted us to record that song. And a few days later, he said he called us up. When we walked in the office, he had a contract, white sheet in his hand like this. He said, "I got your contract." I said, "You got my contract? Nobody gets a contract. Nobody gets away from Mars Levy, you know? You got it." And I didn't think to ask him. I was so happy to be able to record. And as we all know, that was another career. It gave us another world, another shot. And but a month later or something, I was up in Nyack, New York at Teddy's house. And we were sitting there drinking this homemade Italian red wine or something. It's pretty fun. and I guess I asked him, "Teddy, I never did ask you, how did Don get my contract?" He said, You didn't know?" "No." He said he put in a call. "To who?" "To Frank." And this is what Frank told him. He heard the song going out of my head. Frank wanted that song more than he wanted life. He tried to wrestle that song away from us. But Teddy was a man of his word. He said, "I gave it to Little Anthony and the Imperials," which he knew. He knew who we were. He said, "The rock and rollers?" He said, "Yeah." But then he heard what I had did on Outside Looking In. And Teddy said he made a call. And need I say more?
No.
His friends.
That's all it would take. And yeah, I know. After talking a lot to Tommy James, I think
Let me tell you the whole story. We talked about East Wind. He came in the same trouble getting his contract out of Morris Levy too.
Oh yeah.
Morris Levy was with the mob. Let's face it.
Yeah.
And the boss of bosses was not just one of his best friends, like Godfather. And it's the Gambino family. They were boss of bosses. He put in the call, his gang ain't bigger than Gambino, and gave the kid his contract. And the last thing that Sinatra said to Teddy was, "Tell the kid he sings good."
Oh, how nice. How nice. What a great compliment, and get that done. How about a Smokey Robinson story?
Smokey, we came up together. He was from Detroit, and he was with Barry. Barry was working for New Brunswick Records. He was writing. He was a writer, and he wrote Jackie Wilson's first hit. What was that? I forget. Sometimes my brain goes into neutral. But anyway, he wrote a couple of those songs, but he wanted to do something on his own. So it happens that this is 1959. I walk in the office and I saw these two guys there. Three. One was Barry Gordy. Another one was Pete Moore of the Miracles. Pete always tells me the story more than anybody. He reminds me of it when he was alive. They were up there looking for a distribution deal from Gorn and N Records from George Golden. And I looked at them. He wasn't Smokey Robinson yet. This was just another guy in the office. And I'm looking at the Chantel sitting in another chair, waiting to get in to talk with the next recording or something. And there was another group at the time, they called the Dubs. They were in the office. And here's Smokey Robinson and Barry and Pete Moore. And so I guess they, hello. Pete introduced himself to me. That's what Pete told me. And he said, "Man, your records, oh man, we trying to get something going, man. Ourselves, man. We got a group called the Miracles." And the legend is they couldn't work out a deal with George Golden. So they left. Went back to Detroit and decided to start their own thing. And they started a label called Tamala Records.
Oh yeah. Wow. Great
That's
story.
the beginning of Motown.
Yeah. What a legendary time. Listen, two things. Number one, for the audience, again, if you don't mind, where on Sirius they can find your program, and where they can find your book.
Yeah, I think it's 72. I think you can still get it the book on Amazon, all those kind of places. And yeah, it's I think it's channel 72. You can Google it, very easy to find.
Yep.
Just put in Little Anthony and the music on 50s Gold, and it comes on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Tuesday or Monday, or I don't know. I know it's on because I'm always interviewing people.
Oh, you get to do it like at a home studio or something? Yeah,
well, I actually go to Sirius. Normally I go to Sirius Radio in Miami, and their office is there.
Nice.
And my own studio. And of course, a lot of great people there. I met a lot of really wonderful people. Howard Stern moved there, all in guys. I ran all in guys. And but then they have special mics, like this mic I have here is Sirius Radio mic. It's top of the line. And they decided to start doing Zoom. So in the last couple of months, I have not been to Miami. Because I used to go there like once a week and record several shows ahead of time. In the last 3 months or 4 or 5 months, I came up with the idea of interviewing some people that were friends. And they said, I said, but I don't want to interview him. I just want to see if I can have a conversation with him. We're just gonna talk like we're in the living room. So we'll trigger each other, and that would be the conversation. And then you'll play the records. They'll edit in New York City, and they'll pull up the records wherever we're talking to. So it started with Jay Siegel of the Tokens, and it went to Kenny Van, Monotone, then it went Planetones, and then it went to, oh shoot, a lot of people. I started really talking. I got a bunch of things to do coming up. I'm talking to George Benson. I think he'll be doing it. But how our lives.
Oh yeah, one of the very first concerts I ever saw in Santa Barbara, California, George Benson.
Yeah,
amazing.
I've known George for 60 years. When he was in Pittsburgh playing these little jazz clubs, and you know, he was aficionado of Doo-Wop. He loves that. He loves that stuff. He told me, he said, "Man, I can do you like you." I said, "Oh, George, they all say that. I can't even do me." Stop. So he said, "No, really, man, I can." And he came over to the Madison Square Garden. We were doing a concert for Richard Nader, and came to the dressing room, and all the guys were there. And he said, he took his dad's guitar, and he goes, "You don't," and yes, he got the phrasing right, the tonation right. It was him, but it was me too. I mean, I'm going, no one's ever did that. I was impressed. So,
what a skill.
so I'll have him on, and I'm going to have Johnny Britt on, who's really, really very talented and one of the top jazz players. This is very people in the business, not necessarily some are Doo-Wop street corner singers, some are jazz, some are pop. It doesn't matter. It's about the music. That's why it's called Little Anthony and the Music.
Nice.
It's about the music.
What is it, like an hour, a couple hours?
It runs, it only runs a half hour, but now they're expanding because it's growing. Because, you know, their prescription, and it's growing, and they found out these conversations are starting to really happen. And now they're asking me, who else can we get, you know, and this and that. And a lot of times they can do it. I talked to Smokey. Smokey just told, he told me it was cool because we both got an award several months ago in Vegas called the Dream Award, and we were talking backstage. And I said, "Man, I know you got your big time, you got your own channel." I said, "I know you wouldn't come do a lowly show like mine." Shut up. He said, "Come on, man." And so we're setting it up, but he's been on the road, but we look like he's going to be doing it. And who else? Shoot. I did a lot. Man, I've done so many people here. I don't even remember what I did. But I'm talking to Darlene Love, trying to hook up with her. Right now, Chubby Check is in another world. He's got
I'll bet. Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah, man. When I talk to him on the phone, I'm going, "Whoa, I'm so glad for you, man." Because he was trying so many years, he was getting bitter. But somehow he didn't make it. So once you get that award, you become a part of the family.
Yeah.
And I had Ron Wood of the Rolling Stones says, "Welcome to the family." So that's how it is at the celebrations. We're all like family. There is no level of who's who. It's just us. We're all we're Rock and Roll Hall of Famers. We're in the class. I'm in the class of 2009.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
What an amazing honor. Listen, I have so much respect for you, for your career. You are real, you are genuine, you are warm, you are engaging. I cannot wait to listen this weekend to your radio program. I will post this, send you all of the links. It'll be on YouTube, on the radio show, etc. I cannot thank you and your son Tony enough